Hi all, this is John Bishop. I'm here with my good friend, Dr. Nancy Flournoy, and some wonderful guests that have joined us tonight. So tonight we're going to be talking about the X49 patch. Nancy, she's going to give a wonderful presentation on that, which she usually does. She's been doing all of the patches that Lifewave has made. And tonight, this is the newest patch. And so that I want to turn it over to Nancy to give a little bit more about her background before we get into her presentation.
Hi, John, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here. I'm just trying to figure out, it's giving me new messages for sharing my screen. So tell me if it's shared.
Yep, we can see that. Okay,
so thanks for coming. A word about me as I start the slideshow. So I have spent my career in, I'm a statistician by practice. I spent my career in designing methods, innovative and creative methods for designing and analyzing modern clinical trials. As statisticians, we're always delighted with new pieces of equipment and new procedures that come in because they all present new challenges for statistics. That being said, having been in the research community for decades now, I have been totally captivated by Lifewave's patches and what they've done to myself and what they've done to help me, myself and my friends and my animals and my family. And so I have been exploring the science behind them because I find it interesting. And I'm delighted to be able to share what I've been learning with you all. And I'm happy to have the fact that you come and you listen to me helps me to be excited about doing this research. So I've saved, so I'm going to start in 2 weeks when I give the next talk. I'll start from the beginning, but I said this is the last of this first round, and every time I go around, I learn more about the patches. I saved X49 for last because it is the newest and there's sort of the least known about it. So it's been a bit of a challenge, but I think I found some things that you'll find interesting. So X49, it's the second copper peptide enhancing patch that's come for Lifewave. And so that in of itself gives you a bit of a clue that copper may be an important thing for us to pay some attention to. So one of the things that we want to know about all the patches is what was it designed to do? What was it designed to do? And does it actually do it? So again, thank you for joining me as we investigate this. So in general, particularly for those of you who may not have that much familiarity with the Lifewave patches, the patches are made of crystal and they are designed as nano antenna. So they radiate frequencies of specific, that are tuned to specific photoreceptors in the body. They're designed to sync up with a particular molecule, particular often peptide that will be enhanced and perform better in our bodies once it's been tuned properly. And of course, with age, it's kind of gotten out of sync. So in the case of X49, the patch is designed to elevate this particular copper peptide. Cu stands for copper. The peptide's called AHK-cu for copper. So we'll learn more about that. So the first question is, the patch is designed to increase the copper peptide production, and does it actually do that? And so we have 2 studies from Lifewave. And in the first study that was done, they found that overall there was a tendency for the AHK copper peptide to be enhanced, but it was really different between whether someone was a vegetarian or a vegan or whether they were not. And in the case of vegetarian and vegans, they typically are have a deficiency, or they may well have a deficiency in the alanine molecule, which is one of the components of this peptide. And so it's recommended that if one is a vegan or a vegetarian, that if you're not getting your meat and your poultry and your fish, that you be sure you're getting your soy beans and your other things that in fact will give you the, we've got several people coming in, give you the material that you need to actually make this patch work. And they have a second study that showed that metabolism of this copper peptide was in fact increased, and in particular was increased in its support of helping bone structure. So Dr. Melinda Connor does a lot of the research for Lifewave on the Lifewave products now. And she has said in one of her talks that it's very difficult to measure this copper peptide in the blood, but that in fact they were able to do it. And in fact, the patches do work as intended in that regard. So these are the two copper peptide enhancing products, X39 and X49. The X39's been around for a couple of years now, and those of you, there's tons of testimonials and a lot of research into how it works to improve your vitality, and primarily activating as it activates stem cell production. The X49 is showing its performance more in the area of increasing your strength and your stamina, and we will talk more about that. But these things on this slide are the items that the company has on its promotional material, which means that, you know, it's been vetted by a host of lawyers and they have the data to back it up. So for the X49, it is going to help with the vascular system, cognitive function, muscle recovery, fat loss, and bone health. So that's kind of an array of things. We're going to learn more about how that all fits together. So the first thing is that both of these peptides have actually three peptides that combine together. So if you look at the X39, which elevates the GHK peptide, you can look right here in the middle. There's this little Cu, and that's copper. So you have all this C for carbon, N for nitrogen, H for hydrogen, O for oxygen. You have all this stuff surrounding this little piece of metal that's in the middle of the peptide. And then you look over here at the AHK, and voila, you can't find the copper. So I'll show you in a minute where the copper comes in. But this AHK peptide is found in the blood. It's largely in the blood of most mammals. So one of the things both of these peptides have is this this little circular link of molecules that are tightly held together. It's called the imidazole. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. The imidazole ring. And so in common, they have this ring that is responsible for metal ion cleating. That means it's really good at detox for metals, and it has antioxidant properties. And so, so they share that. And this ring of nitrogen and carbon and hydrogen, it has all of these other positive effects, long list, antifungal, antiviral, anti-ulcer, long list. So just that little piece itself is a great big help to our health. The other thing they both do, as I said, is transport copper. And here is the AHK copper peptide again, but look what we had to do. If you look down here on the bottom, you have one of these tripeptides. And if you look up here at the top, you have a second copy of it that's just kind of flipped around, and you've got the copper right in the middle. So it's like you have all of this structure to kind of hold this copper. And one of the ways these peptides work is to get copper where it needs to be in your body to do what copper does. And that's what we're going to look at a little bit more, is exactly why is it so great that you have this transport system to take copper around to where it's needed. What does it do? So first we're going to talk a little bit about copper, and then we'll talk about alanine, which is what distinguishes this patch from X39, the X49 from the X39. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Lifewave research itself. So a little bit about copper. Why do we care about copper? Well, it's vital for a lot of different things, for virtually, all of our organisms that have any sophistication at all. So it's required for iron metabolism, which you need for your red blood cells, oxygenation, we all need to breathe, our cells all need to breathe, neurotransmission, that's, how our body, one of the ways our body communicates with itself, and many other things. Now, a special function of is in signaling, and you need if there's not enough copper in a solution, like you're wherever, stem cells won't divide into whatever they are needed. So this is one of the big benefits of the X39 is getting copper to the level that your stem cells, that stem cells will proliferate and help do whatever you need them to do, grow into cells. For the X49, we take a different view. So just let me, some of my words, don't try and read all this, just let some of my words kind of wash over you. So one of the things that copper does is, so virtually every reaction that happens in your body has sort of the main players that are involved in making the reaction happen. And then they have, they often need enzymes. Enzymes are kind of a kicker that gets the process started, that kind of gets it over the hump, that makes it go. So most of the reactions that make our bodies work rely on the presence of enzymes. And to a large extent, enzymes use copper to make them work. So here's a set of things, a set of biochemical reactions that we need to happen that wouldn't happen without copper. So starting on the left here, we have cellular respiration. Well, we need to breathe, our cells need to breathe. That's obviously important. it is what's involved in cellular respiration is anything that ends in an ASE is usually an enzyme. So there's this particular enzyme, cytochrome C, and we're not going to talk about it tonight, but I promise you we're going to talk about it sometime, because David is always talking about this sort of cytochrome C. So we certainly have something to learn about it, but we can't do everything tonight. Another process that is really dependent on copper is detoxification, particularly of heavy metals. And detoxification is a big subject, and we can save that for another night too. Now, one of the things that I hadn't realized before is that all of the antioxidant enzymes require something to function, and in particular, copper is required by the superoxide dimusitase, this SOD. And again, this is something that David Schmidt, the CEO of Lifewave, is always talking about. And it is described as the most crucial nutrient in this of the enzymes in this team. So of the antioxidants that are going on, that are going to try and clean up your system, you really want to have a well-functioning SOD, and you need copper for that to happen. Another place that copper comes into play is in connective tissue formation. Well, you know, one of the things that X49 is becoming known for is its effect on your muscle and your bones, and that's connective tissue, your ligaments. So so your connective tissue is made of a large part of it is collagen, and then elastin. Elastin makes it stringy and bouncy, and the collagen gives it the structure and the strength. And the collagen is kind of like DNA. It's got 3 strands, and they get wound together, and then they get linked together. And they get linked together with these cross links. And the cross links are made strong by having little pieces of copper in them. Also could be zinc, a few other metals, but a lot of copper. So in order to have strong connective tissue, you got to have the copper in there helping it all work. Okay, a fourth area where copper comes into play is in the production of melanin. Now, melanin is just another word for dark pigments, whether it be your skin, your hair, or interestingly, in your eyes. And melanin is associated with protection. It absorbs and transforms electromagnetic wavelengths, such as damaging ultraviolet light. So this is another topic that David is often bringing up and quite concerned with, is our exposure to ultraviolet light, particularly as we have an increased exposure to, you know, our telephones, our Wi-Fi, everything that is, you know, we're just increasingly, as he says, it's like having your head in a microwave. And so our cells and our system, and particularly our nervous system, needs all the help it can get, and copper is one of the keys to that. Okay, the fifth and final place where copper, as its involvement in enzymes, is documented. There's obviously lots to know about all of this that science is still, you know, uncovering. But the last thing on the list that I found that was documented is that it's important for blood clotting, but in particular, there are 2 what they call factors, 5 and 8, that it's important for. And 5 is needed if you're going to have well, any coagulation, it's needed as the phrase that's used, it's needed to express procoagulant activity. So if you want your blood clot to clot, you need copper. And then this number 8 is serious because it's known as the anti-hemolytic factor. And so if you really don't want to, have serious bleeding, you need copper as well. So that's the list of sort of generic, well, it's kind of a partial list because I skipped through some, but it is a list of the many reasons why you'd like to have these copper peptides delivering copper to where they need to go. And as I say, we talked about X49 in terms of its stem cell production enhancement. The AHK copper peptide is going to be more important with respect to delivering copper for these other benefits because there's more of it. There's simply not enough of the GHK copper to deliver all the copper everywhere it needs to go. So hence, as far as the copper delivery system is concerned, this X49 coming on board to help with the copper delivery system is very, very great. Now, what about this copper peptide as a whole by itself? Well, there's not a lot of literature, period, but of the literature there is, most of it has to do with, most of it's come out of the skincare industry, and it talks a lot like you'll find literature on GHK about how it's going to improve your wrinkles and make you look prettier or younger. And that literature talks, here we've got a hair follicle, got a couple hair follicles, and as they're exposed to this copper peptide, they get bigger, and there gets to be more space around the bottom there, all of which reflects more moisture. And a lot of the benefit is attributed to the enhancement of the moisture. There is a lot of evidence, new evidence and claims, particularly by people who are trying to sell hair stimulus products, that it's going to help with that. And I think there are many people, I know there's many people, I've heard a number of people in the Lifewave community who, after having used this peptide for a while, go, oh my goodness, I'm getting more hair. So I'm not the least bit surprised to understand that claim, even though Lifewave itself is not making that claim. But we're going to talk about, okay, so then one other thing, as I said, Dr. Connor is doing a lot of the Lifewave research, and she has said in one of her talks that the copper peptide is involved in the health of the vascular endothelial cells. And I didn't find, well, actually, I think I found this paper and then I couldn't find it again. So so I will continue looking, but right now this is all, I have, oops. There. So I don't have a lot to say about that. Maybe next time through I can say more about the vascular health aspect of this copper peptide, but for now all I have is her comment on the fact. And then after having dragged you through all that information about the copper peptide, the copper, I turned to what our Lifewave CEO actually said he thought was the critical thing to pay attention to, and that is the alanine in the peptide. And so he's attributing the benefits that are being seen with the with X49 in large part, or at least in some part, to this this molecule, which is one of the three. They share glycine, they share histamine, but they don't share glycine. The copper has the glycine, but they share the other two. So let's talk about alanine. So here again, at the surface look, it looks like a bunch of disparate things, and we'll start to tie them together. So it plays a role in the management of blood sugar levels, and in the conversion of glucose in the liver, so that the muscles can take it up and use it for energy. I'm going to show you some pictures of this. It's an important source of energy for the muscles, but also for the central nervous system. So now we start to see not just the muscles and the idea that it might help with stamina and endurance. We see it getting tied into the central nervous system, which includes the brain. It's used to construct proteins and muscle mass. It can protect against muscle wasting. And in doing all that, it's supporting physical performance and recovery. So here's a picture. We actually find that there is a cycle called the glucose-alanine cycle. And so we have these three components: liver, blood, and muscle. So on the left, we have the liver. On the right, we have the muscle. And in the middle is represented that there's going to be, blood going from one to the other. And in that blood, you have glucose and you have alanine. And this is all going in a big circle. So in the liver, well, in both the liver and in the muscle, there is this molecule called pyruvate. And the pyruvate, thinking of it here in the liver first, is able to take, so glucose usually comes from carbohydrates. You eat your potatoes, you eat your sugar, you eat primarily carbohydrates, you get glucose. And everyone says, don't eat too many hydrates, they're just going to break down and become sugar. But the liver is part of your garbage disposal system, and it chops everything up and gets it ready to go away, but it's also your recycling system. And so it looks along and it sees these carbon chains that didn't even come from carbohydrates. They came from something else, and it says, oh, we can use that. We can make sugar out of this and get some energy out of it. So the pyruvate's job is to find these molecules, these strings of things that include a lot of carbon, but didn't come from carbohydrates, and it turns it into sugar. And so it turns it into sugar, sends it out into the blood, it comes into the muscle, and now the muscle's got some new energy that it didn't have before. And the pyruvate works in the opposite direction then. The muscle, I'm going to show you a little slide next time that shows you a little more about what's going on here. Anyway, it finishes using up the glucose and getting its sugar, and then it sends the alanine back out. So alanine's really, so when they talk about glucose management, alanine is a very important player in how the glucose is being used and not used and recycled. So now let's look a little more at okay, so again, this is a busy slide. Don't look at it all. Just follow my, follow my instruction here. We've got plasma out here. So this is in the blood. You've got glucose. The glucose comes in toward this cell. and it goes through this process called glycolysis. And that process, for it to work, this is where the alanine is required, is inside this blue box. And when that set of operations is finished, what comes out, you can look, there's two lines here. One goes up like this, and that's when the oxygen is present, and the other comes down here, and this is when you have oxygen is absent. So if it comes off here to the oxygen absent pathway, it turns into lactic acid. So that's when, you know, when your runner is no longer, it's when the runner didn't have enough oxygen in the cell to be able to make energy out of it, and it turns into lactic acid. Now over here, when you have enough oxygen, it goes this is the mitochondria, and you have a whole lot of processes triggered, which then put out ATP, and ATP is your little energy molecule it's an energy potential, and it goes around and gets used for energy. So none of this happens without alanine. That's the point for this talk. Now, we say, okay, what happens with the brain? So don't look at this whole slide at one time. I'll lead you through it piece by piece. It was a little bit complicated to decipher. So look at this purple over here. So I'm looking in the brain, in the material I find on the brain, for what in the world does alanine have to do with anything? And what I find is that it's important for ammonia transfer. Well, I didn't even know that we had ammonia in our brain or what it would be used for. So you sort that out a little, and you find out that it is relevant to the glutamate-glutamine cycle. So now, we've talked about this in 2 other talks, so I'm not going to say a lot about it, but I'll try and give you enough to understand why it's important. So we have, if you look at the bottom down here, we have glutamine and we have glutamate. Okay, so what we're finding is alanine is important to the trade-off going back and forth between these 2 compounds. And you see it can go in a circle, it can go back and forth, and then it can also, the molecules can also spin off to the right and create GABA. And then that can go in a circle round and round again. And why do we care? We care about it because this is our diurnal clock. This is what the glutamate goes up in the morning, helps us get out of bed, goes down in the evening. At the same time, GABA goes up. GABA helps the whole systems go down, get calm, go to sleep. So this cycle that they're talking about that we need ammonia for is all involved with the functioning of our day and our body's understanding of day and night, and that it's time to sleep and time to wake up, and that this cycle is going to play out day after day as it needs to for our health. So alanine is important for this cycle. Now there's one other little set of things that gets thrown in here, which I just start to try and get a handle on, which is that what alanine does is cause ammonia to go to the glial cells. Okay, so how do the glial cells get involved in all of this? Well, they're important for homeostasis. They form myelin, that's the sheath around the nerves that protects it and makes them, you know, makes our nerves not frayed to the edges. These cells all in the brain, it also has to do with glucose. We're back to glucose again. It helps glucose. They metabolize glucose into a form that our neurons want to use as fuel. I mean, we're not used to thinking about the neurons eating. You know, we think of other cells getting fed, but our nerve cells need to get fed too. And these cells that are particularly want what the glial cells have to give them are photoreceptor neurons. And what are photoreceptor neurons have to do with all of the rest of this story? Well, it's the light that comes into our eyes that starts our system awakening to whether it's day or night. So it's all part of the system that regulates our wake and sleep time, which in turn regulates all our hormones. So all of this is critical, and way down in the middle of it is this alanine, which we need to have, and we do with this X49 is going to help make it. So now we'll lighten up a bit. That was as deep as we're going to get. These are now talking about some of, well, so Lifewave did a study on 20 persons, and we are awaiting more results every day. And I understand that they have had a real hard time of it because of COVID and not having people really want to participate in clinical trials. And so we'll get more when we get it. In the meantime, we have this research that shows a reduction in blood pressure just by taking X49 alone. This is people that, well, if you looked at the raw numbers, it brings it into where you'd really like it to be by dropping the systolic. And if you use X39 and X49 together, you get a bigger decrease in the systolic, and you also get a decrease in the diastolic that is pretty dramatic. So there are results on exercise that you get, you know, you can do more push-ups and squats and curls. I have mixed feelings when I see these results presented by David and by other people as well, because although, you know, curls and sit-ups are really a great way to measure whether in fact you do have more stamina, you can do something more. I mean, they're things that you can count. And so from that point of view, they're good for reporting the benefits of X49. But as far as well-being is concerned, you know, when you do one thing repeatedly, you lay down collagen, and you could do that one thing better and better and better, but you can do everything else a little bit less because you've paid what you've paid for in being able to do that one operation is an inability and a decrease in flexibility to do other things. So I personally am of the wellness model that you don't do the same thing over and over again. But again, as I say, for the purposes of the science, this is a straightforward way to measure the fact that you got an amazing increase in what you were able to do. And the similar statement from my point of view with respect to, well, to any performance, any repetitious activity. So in this case, we have different measures of performance on your bike, and with X49, you see large increases in your ability to do these things. And if you take X39 and X49, everything is enhanced even to a greater extent. So I think the performance enhancement is well documented. So data shows that both X39 and X49 are helping us to build better bodies, but they're doing it differently. and that X49 is going to make the body leaner and stronger. I didn't mention the weight loss data, but in a talk that David gave recently, he said they were very surprised to see the increase in fat loss, not just weight. I mean, weight loss as a consequence to fat loss. And I don't know, he seemed surprised, but after that slide I just went through where we're talking about the X49, the alanine being important for essentially making things that aren't carbohydrates burnable, it seemed to make sort of sense to me. So I'm sure we'll learn more about that as time goes on too. X49 strengthens the bones. I've not seen the data on that, but it's repeated enough that I'm sure it's there somewhere. And the data that one recovers more quickly despite one's age is also part of this recent study. So that's the LifeWave data. The patching positions, they're going with the old, with the standards behind the neck, under the belly button. Put one place, the other another place, switch them around. They're both good positions, or as David says, you can just string these patches down your back and they'll work fine. So I think that is pretty much what I have to say, with the disclaimer that the LifeWave patches are not claiming to do any medical cures of any sort, and that if you have a medical condition, you should seek your doctor's advice and opinion regarding that. So we have special bundles here, and as I say, the reports that are coming in are quite amazing on how they are helping people. So this is a great addition to our phototherapy arsenal, and I thank you for coming and hope you come next time. With that, I will stop sharing my screen and see if there's any questions and turn it back over to John.
Thank you, Nancy. That was great. Very good. Very enlightening how all these things work in the body, and these new things that I've never heard before. So I wanted to thank you for that. So if anybody has any particular questions, go ahead and raise them. Unmute yourself, say hi. This is, very informal. We're not
Hi, Virginia.
Hello.
Good.
That was really good. That was really good, Nancy.
It was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll tell you, a week ago, I had no idea what I was going to say.
You've been busy.
Yeah. I mean, this AHK is just really not well studied. I mean, you have to keep looking, and it's kind of like a spiritual quest. You got to ask the right question, or you don't get the answer.
Well, I think you found the peptide grail tonight. How's that?
Oh, at least I have something to build on, I think.
Nancy, I have to tell you that a few people that have shown up and have asked, that I live on the East Coast. We have a lot more skeptics out here. And people are skeptical of it. And, you can understand why. I mean, these are patches, yet they're reflecting light back into, there can be a lot of skepticism, and I think that's healthy. When it's one thing I point them to some of the white papers that we have available to us on the LifeWave site, but I tend to send them to your page.
I need to update it. I've been getting the talks updated more on my YouTube site, and I have a couple
that's the one I've been using, is your YouTube site.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And if nothing else, even if I don't capture their hearts and get them on LifeWave, I have to say it shuts them up.
You scare them.
Like, really? I mean, most of these people don't have a science background. So I come from the arts, of course, 99% of us, as John will tell you, don't have a science background. But the one or two done, trying to get some doctors on there. They're so busy, they don't have time to look at everything like that. But I just wanted you to know, I have sent a few people there and they're like, wow, that lady's erudite. And I have to be honest, I tell them she's not an entertainer like us. So you have to go in there. It's like you're sitting in a college classroom and you're going to learn something. And that's what you do. I mean, having been a college professor, I understand that completely, Nancy. So
Yeah, I leave the show. Well, from my point of view, the college professor does a show too, but
yes,
it's a different show. Yes.
it is. And then when you go to John's presentation, you have Alice in Wonderland. That's a whole production. So thank you.
And a very lovely Alice. Yes.
Hey
Okay.
guys, I just ordered my first X49 patch literally 2 days ago through Thomas Speed, and I'm really excited. I met him through TikTok, and I'm a little bit of a skeptic myself, but I'm super hopeful, and I can see the real possibilities with these products, and I'm just excited to get to try them out and spread the word because I signed up as a distributor.
Well, stick with that X39 for a while. Some people see stuff right away, and some people it takes 4-6 months or so, but just stick with it because it's really wonderful when it kicks in.
Yeah, I imagine I'll probably notice something pretty quick because I'm in pain every day, so I have a lot of opportunity for noticing something.
Yeah, unfortunately. Unfortunately.
That seems to be the road for a lot of people. It certainly was for me, suffering, from chronic back and joint pain for years. And boy, I tell you, let's see, now I'm coming up in September of my 3rd year, and I've pretty much been pain-free. And since adding the X49, my workouts and everything are I feel like 20 years younger. I actually wanted to test this out the other day. So I had my X39, X49 on, and I live in Seattle, and there's these huge hills. Philip knows very well because he used to live out here. And so what I did is I just walked down to the bottom of the hill, and then I decided to run up, as fast as I could. I made it to the top, and I couldn't believe it. There's like a year ago.
What are you calling the top? You mean up James Street or something?
Well, actually, it's up Jackson.
Jackson to the top.
Yeah. So all the way down from where Wajimaya is, all the way up, there's like two big, it kind of breaks off. It goes steep and then it kind of levels out, and then it goes steep and steep. And I just thought, I want to try this, see what happens. And I was a little shocked really. So I'm not going to do that every day. But I just thought, you get to experiment. I kind of try to be my own little hamster, or guinea pig.
That's too cool of a story that you shared that with us today, because I just was telling my girlfriend, I was at Costco. I had to exchange an inflatable boat that had a hole in it, right? And on the way out, I had noticed on the way in that there were no carts. So I saw a young lady who was pushing carts, and there's still like barely any carts. And I had a flashback. I'm like 35, thinking back when I was at my first job, 16 and a half. I'm like, man, I used to push carts. I'm going to help her. So when I got back to my car, I pushed like 15 carts in a line and brought them up, and it felt great. But I could tell, like, by panting after that, it's been a while since
Yeah. So Zach, did you get the Costco, the Tobin, the green one, 2-seater?
Yeah.
That's what I got.
No, it's a 3-seater.
Oh, 3-seater. Oh, you got the bigger one. Okay.
But it has 2 seats.
Uh-huh.
It's got 2 seats.
Oh, 2 seats, right? Yeah, that's it. But it fits 3.
Yeah, I think it's the same one.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like a green and yellow or something like that?
Green and yellow. Yeah, I got the same one.
Yeah, it's too cool. We take it out we want to take it out on the lake, and so that way we can be feeling like boat owners, even though it's inflatable.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm excited, you guys. Like I saw Thomas on TikTok and I was like, wow, what's this, at the time 66, now he's 67. What's this guy doing looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger? And I didn't take him seriously. Honestly, at first I didn't take him seriously. I was like taking him seriously and clicking through his links and looking at the tech patches. And I was like, what is this? And we had a phone call. We talked for like 45 minutes and vibed with each other. And I've just been struggling to get enough money to even order the first batch of patches. So I just finally splurged on myself and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to try it and I'm going to try and stick with it as much as I can afford. And hopefully it'll do something for me so I can inspire other people to try it out. And maybe it'll be a opportunity for me to have some growth for the world in one way or another.
Right. Well, for one who's really not done the TikTok thing yet, but I know I've heard that some people are quite, Emily, you're on TikTok, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it's a great way. I think it's a good platform. Yeah, you try everything. Try everything you share. Of course, there's Facebook, Instagram, but I never even really heard about TikTok, I think, until a few months ago. But
yeah, I was completely against any social media for a while. So I had the video off because I have a scab on my lip from a cold sore that just healed. But I'm really excited. I really think that I met him through TikTok for a reason. And the reason why I even started doing TikTok was I figured, why fight it if you can use the platform to spread positivity instead of just making more content that fills people's brains with gobbledygook.
yeah, exactly. Good point. Yeah, good point, Zach.
But thanks for your time, guys. I don't want to take up, the whole room or anything, but I just wanted to say thank you so much. And it was cool. I got to catch the tail end and I want to learn more, definitely.
Right. Well, it's
Well,
great having you, Zach.
Come back.
Yeah.
However you
will.
got
More
the
to come. More to come.
invite. Yes.
Everything happens for a reason. I don't doubt it. Sometimes we don't see it in the moment, but yeah, I appreciate you guys and your time and your effort and spreading the word.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, Nancy.
Okay. I'm going to stop the recording.